What's going on, everybody? It's time for my review of Adventure Time Finite Resource Wars! Okay, so I actually saw this movie on Sunday, it's like a week ago. I tried to record this review on like Tuesday, I think. I went to edit the footage on Wednesday. Oops, turns out the entire thing was blurry as hell, so I can't use any of it. I could have probably, it wasn't too bad, but I was like, I'll just goddamn redo it all over again. So here's how this is gonna work. I'm gonna do a non-spoiler review. What is that? What is it? And then I'm gonna make a second video being a spoiler review. I mean, this is the first time I'm ever reviewing something on my channel, so if you like it, let me know down in the comments down below. Show your appreciation by liking. So without further ado, let's get right into the review. Alright, so first of all, it's a very, like, I went to write down here, I'll even show you, look at, you see? These are notes I took for the movie, but it's not like, I've tried to do this kind of stuff before, like Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and It's, where I went to the theater with pen and paper, wrote down everything, but this movie, I didn't need to do that. And it surprised me. I was like, okay, well, let's try to write down everything I remember about the movie, and as I was writing, everything kind of just, like, fit together very well, and it flowed very, like, good. Like, I never really even noticed during the movie, but just writing it down made me realize, like, wow, everything just kind of, like, nicely flows into each other, so it's very coherent. And I mean, that's the first praise I'm going to give it, is there's really no surprise everyone else is saying this, and it's very true, it's very justified that. Considering how many characters are in this movie, it is insane that it is not just a giant mess of what the hell's going on. It is very, 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 like, well put together, and I mean that works because they put, like, all these characters in different categories together, so it's not like, you know, oh, let's go see what Thor's doing, oh, let's go see what Iron Man's. It's like, okay, let's go see what this set of characters is doing, let's go see what this set of characters are doing. Like, it takes some time for people to get together, obviously, but it's done pretty quickly, it's done pretty well. So this movie actually picks up right after Ragnarok, which actually I didn't see coming, I guess, but it makes sense, because at the end of Ragnarok, no spoilers obviously, but you know, Thanos' ship appears, so it makes sense that it would take off right after that. First scene is amazing and probably one of my favorites in the films, to be honest. I thought it was really cool. It's really good. Obviously I'll go more into depth in my spoiler review, but it's very intense, to say the least. Thanos is incredibly scary. That's another thing a lot of people are saying. Thanos, like, when I saw the trailer for Infinity War, I was like, oh no, I had the same fear everyone had. Oh no, he looks like a thumb. He looks like Homer Simpson. He looks like Homer Simpson. But I don't know if they changed anything. I don't know if he just looked dumb out of context in the trailer, but he looks really good in this movie. The CGI is great. He's very formidable. But as you can imagine, being like in an Avengers movie, all the fight scenes are amazing. 10 out of 10 mostly, except for a couple, but once again, I'll go more into that later. The jokes are mostly funny. There's a few jokes that kind of feel like they go on too long, to be honest. All the jokes landed pretty well. There are a few times where things like, it's such like a long movie and there's so much stuff going on, it's like, they make a joke kind of trail on a little bit too much, and it makes you go, come on, we have better stuff to do. Which I guess that's just their attempts to like kind of slow down the pace a little bit. But it's like, when there's so much to do, it's like, sure, have some funny jokes, but you know, tone it down a little bit, at least on the length. Like, dwelling on something for anything really just kind of ruins it a little bit. That's the thing as well, like, there's definitely some scenes in the movie where a character comes in for the first time. It's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And then someone like, it's like, I'll help! And they're like, what? And it's like, you know, panning shot of, here's these amazing characters. But it's like, if you've never seen like one of the movies, it's like, what's going on? Of course this movie is put together as if you've seen all the other movies, but just like having it as just a standalone movie by itself, it feels a little like it's kind of funny to think about someone seeing, like, let's say like the Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time, and that's like their first thing of like, oh, I'll help, and then, you know, it's like, why is there dramatic music? Who are these guys? There's a particular scene with a guest cameo. It's really funny. You'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and I mean, it took me a second to be like, is that who I think? Oh, it is who I think it is. I won't say too much since even kind of mentioning. I will say it has to do with Thor's storyline. So if you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. But just know if you're a fan of like fantasy stuff in general, you're probably gonna look at that and just kind of giggle to yourself, because it's like, of course this actor is gonna play this particular character. Of course, literally no one else could. I want to comment on because it's not just Thanos in this movie. You know, every bad guy has to have cronies, right? So Thanos has a few underlings that are of noteworthy. There's actually one you see in the trailer, the one that goes. That one's really cool. I actually really like the design of that one. He has some cool things he does in the movie. But he, out of all, I'm not going to say the exact amount, but out of all, like, the kind of, like, you know, underlings, he's the only one that's kind of cool. The other ones are just kind of very bland and kind of generic alien characters. It's like they made one look cool. Why couldn't they do the other one instead of just making them look all generic and boring? One of the other characters is actually a girl alien, and this isn't really like a con or anything. It's just kind of a funny thing I noticed. So this girl alien, you know, she gets into fights with people. The one thing I noticed was she only female characters fight other female characters. There's no like, you know, let's say Thor punching girl alien. There's none of that. It's not even just like, oh, what a coincidence. It's like, no, here's 3 girls, here's another girl. All right, wow, they're all girls. What a coincidence. I think that's just Marvel trying to avoid the potential. You can't have a man hit a woman. Potential controversy. I can't say that word. Controversy. But anyways, I thought that was like kind of, like I said, not a con, not a pro, just kind of something I kind of giggled at a little bit, just because it's very obviously like trying to pander to, you know, the most common audience, I guess, to not offend anybody. This particular fight in the movie, I do want to comment on a little bit. The particular scene where some characters get into a bit of a tussle with the big baddie, and it is so amazingly choreographed with just like all the different like superheroes like using their powers together. It's really cool. This is really cool. I think that's probably my absolute favorite scene in the movie, as it probably is with a lot of other people as well, I would imagine. The interesting thing I noticed in this movie is there's no exactly any like Avengers assembled moments like there is in, you know, most notably the first Avengers and then Age of Ultron, where I mean they do like a couple of those in Age of Ultron, but there is none of that in this movie. And it's kind of like, it's cool. I actually think I like that better, simply because like Marvel and Disney are kind of like switching it up a little bit, which I'm very happy for. If something turns into just another Star Wars or it's the same thing over and over again, it's like, it's still good, but you know, you could do better. So I'm actually kind of happy that this movie is very different from the other Avengers movies. In fact, I would say it's probably very different from any of the other Marvel movies, to be honest. It has a much like darker tone to it, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy like dark and gritty stuff. As someone else commented, I think it was the Red Letter Media, said that DC tends to do like the dark and gritty stuff, and yet Marvel is somehow now beating them at the dark and gritty stuff. I don't really say it's a dark and gritty movie, but it gets pretty dark at some points. But going back to the lack of the hero shot of the Avengers altogether, this movie is actually a lot more split up than I thought it would be. There's a lot of characters that like never see each other once or interact or anything, and I wasn't really expecting that either. You'd think in a movie about a bunch of superheroes getting together, you would see that, but I mean, it makes sense to, you know, because just you can't have too much going on the screen at the same time, but it's just kind of weird to see. I'm gonna jump into a few cons. There's a lot of characters, well, not a lot, but there's definitely a few characters in the movie who's like, I wonder what happened if this character, can't this character beat Thanos by themselves probably? And you're probably right, kind ma'am or sir, maybe, but they nerf a lot of the characters. A lot of the characters just kind of get like weirdly nerfed for some reason. It's kind of weird it went down this route. Another thing is, I don't really buy Thanos' motive at all. The thing with Thanos is, he's definitely one of the better MCU villains, where he's just not, I want to become powerful, I want to become a god, I want to rule everyone just because I want to, I guess. It's like he actually has a reason, which is cool, and is, you know, he has logic, but his logic is really like obviously flawed and doesn't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest. So that was a bit. I don't buy it. I don't think it was a good enough reason, in my opinion, for someone like himself to do what he's doing. So it was a little weird that they didn't maybe put more reasons into why he's doing what he's doing. But it's very cool. He has very specific goals in the movie, and it's not just because he wants to be the ruler of the world universe. There's also a particular battle scene in the movie. We'll say the battle scene you see in the trailer. There's a very weird and stupid decision that's made in it that I'm like, no, that's dumb actually. I'll talk more about that later, obviously, but I mean, that's kind of another. There's a few things in this movie that are just kind of like, that doesn't make sense illogically, do you silly goose? Then finally, there's like faceless bad guys to fight, and once again, the faceless bad guys are not. I mean, they're pretty yikes, to be honest. They're not very good. They're just faceless punching bags, which I guess is fine. It's like, I guess you don't need to put a lot of detail into generic things that are just gonna be, you know, on screen for 2 seconds and then just blast it away. But I don't know, just like, they just have like the very typical generic alien enemy look, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's not lazy, but it's just kind of like, it's not very creative, I guess. The only other thing, like, I'm trying to like think of like, what would you need to see before going to see this movie? I think it was like, what, 19 films in the past 10 years or something, or 17? Something in the mid to high teens. And I'm trying to think, like, how does this movie stand alone? Like, if I have never heard of what's a Marvel? If you've never heard of Marvel in your life and you go see this movie, you're gonna be very confused. Especially when I was talking about earlier how, like, you know, some of the characters come in, it's like, it's me! And then, you know, pan and music. So if you don't know anything about Marvel, which how could you not at this point, then this is probably not a good movie to start on. But I at the same time, I don't think you have to have seen every Marvel movie. There's some like ones you probably should have seen, like let's say like the Captain America series, like the 3 movies in that. I'd say at least maybe Iron Man 1 and 2. Doctor Strange is kind of like, that would help. Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a lot of like Black Panther related stuff in that, so I'd probably say see that as well. And of course like the other Avengers movies before that as well. But if you've seen the other Avengers movies, you probably are good enough to go in to see this with maybe the addition of watching Black Panther beforehand, because a lot of the movie is kind of centered around that kind of section of the world, I guess. But besides that, you should mostly be able to follow along with what's going on. But yeah, I guess that's where I'm gonna cap off the spoiler-free review. Hopefully, it's kind of hard to do a spoiler-free review because it's like, isn't technically anything you say about a movie kind of a spoiler? Like if you say, it's a good movie! Like that's technically kind of a spoiler, right? Because then you go into the theater with like, adjusted expectations that in itself is, I don't know, it's kind of like a weird like thing that I have a hard time coping with, trying to figure out what the hell is a spoiler and what the hell isn't. So please yell at me in the comments down below if I said too much, maybe I was even too vague. But this was a fantastic movie, obviously. I would probably say this is my favorite Marvel movie ever. Yeah, I'd probably say this is my favorite Marvel movie. I'm a fan of the dark and gritty stuff, so I'm really happy to see this movie. So yeah, the spoiler review should be out really soon, probably the following day, if not maybe 2 or 3 days later. So look forward to that. I'm gonna try, you know, it's been like I'm filming this for the second time on a Thursday night, so it's been a week now since this movie came out, so I really gotta kind of pump this out because, you know, people are gonna move on. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the movie down below. Hopefully with no spoilers. You could leave spoiler thoughts on the next video if you'd like. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like. I started a second Discord. For those who don't know, I have a Discord server that you're probably, maybe part of it, you've been around my channel for a while, called UnoriginalCraft. Well, that's more for the community of UnoriginalCraft, but I'm starting a second one more centered around like just my personal content. So if you're interested in like helping me decide, there'll be a link on the screen down here and also in the comments. Maybe I'll throw a comment down below if you just want to scroll down. And what the Discord is for, you'll be able to help vote for content. If you want me to like react to like certain videos, you can leave those as well. Maybe I'll react to them in a future video. So if you're interested in that, please check it out. Love you guys very much. Hopefully see you at the spoiler review. And go see the movie, you silly goose.